Well, I was trying to get ready for Christmas this year for a series or whatever. I read through the Christmas story several times and trying to read it through a different lens. It's kind of hard when you preach it every year. And I thought maybe the Lord would tell me something. And I read through it, didn't notice much, read through it a few more times. And I started to notice a theme that I wanted to share on this year preparing for Christmas. Christmas, it's supposed to be the perfect story. And have you ever tried to tell a story, a good story, a really good story, and it takes everything you can to get it out? As a parent, sometimes I try to tell stories or I'm talking to people, sharing something that happened, and it doesn't matter where or when, all of a sudden the kid's got a need, right? I'm hungry. My brother won't let me play on the Xbox. They come talk. And I got one son who, I'm telling you what, if I tell a story, he's going to beat me to the punchline. He's going to jump in and share, those interruptions. We love them, right? I mean, life, it's filled with them. We've got the perfect meal, but something comes up. An important conversation we're having, and our cell phone rings. Life happens. Routines get broken. Really, I like to look at interruptions as the commercials of life. Everyone loves it when they're watching a show and they come to this culminating point and it's after the break. And just as a sidebar, who decided that it was a wise idea to pause people's entertainment, to frustrate them and advertise your business, but I guess it works. Anyway, interruptions are the commercials of life. The interesting thing about commercials, though, is when it comes to the most watched television event of the year, sometimes the commercials, right, become why people engage the Super Bowl. What stood out as I read the Christmas story this season were the divine interruptions that happened. Those moments where God shows up and life completely changes. My first example, Zechariah and Elizabeth. In the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife, Elizabeth, was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were righteous in the sight of God, observing all the Lord commands and decrees blamelessly. But they were childless because Elizabeth was not able to conceive, and they were both very old. So what are the details that we have from this? One, Zechariah is a priest. Elizabeth is a descendant of Abraham. They're both known for their righteousness, their obedience to God. They have no children, and they are very old. They're well along in age. Probably old enough that their barrenness was the story that they adopted to their life, the reality that they were living in, the thought that they were going to continue in. Barrenness in the Jewish culture was a source of shame. Oftentimes, people who were barren, they were judged, basically said it was a punishment for their sin. But Zechariah and Elizabeth were known for their righteousness. So their story continues. Once, when Zechariah's division was on duty, he was serving as a priest before God. He was chosen by lot, according to the custom of the priesthood, to go into the temple and burn incense. And when the time for the burning incense came, all the assembled worshipers were praying outside. When an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense, when Zechariah saw him, he was startled and was gripped with fear. But when the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son. You're to call him John. He will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth, for he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He is never to take wine or other fermented drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before he's born. He will bring back many of the people of Israel to their Lord. And he will go on before the Lord in the spirit of the power of Elijah to turn the hearts of their parents to their children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the righteous, and to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." This was an incredible day for Zechariah. I read a commentary that said basically there were so many priests in that day that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him to go into the temple and light or burn the incense. It was an incredible spiritual privilege, but also brought a lot of responsibility. He had to do his job right. If I'm Zechariah, all I can think about right now is what I got to do, how I got to do it, the right way to do it, so I don't mess this thing up. My whole life has been built up for this moment. All those people outside, they're praying, and this incense represents their prayers. And I just have to do this correctly, guessing that he's prepared and he's ready to do everything exactly how it's supposed to be done. But then, right, the divine interruption. His life, he was going through his duties, his responsibilities, but God showed up. An angel of the Lord appears. How do we stop? I have some stuff to do, right? Can I get back to this conversation? It's pretty important. All those people outside are waiting for me. No. He said, your prayer has been heard and you'll have a son. You talk about a divine interruption. You bring a child into someone's life who's well along in age and say that you're going to have a child. But this child is going to be a joy and delight to many. His calling is he'll go on before the Lord in the spirit and the power of Elijah to turn the hearts of fathers to their children, the disobedient to the righteous, to make people ready for the Lord. So Zechariah's response, right, was he asked the angel, how can I be sure of this? I'm an old man and my wife, she's well along in years. And the angel said to him, I'm Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and tell you this good news. And now you will be silent and not able to speak until the day happens, because you did not believe my words, which come true at their appointed time. Divine interruptions sometimes bring silence. Literally, Zechariah asked for a sign. The divine interruption was both the sign of what Zechariah requested, but it also, God shut his mouth until he was born. Imagine the rest of his day. Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zechariah, wondering why he stayed so long in the temple. When he came out, he could not speak to them. They realized he had seen a vision in the temple, for he kept making signs to them, but remained unable to speak. I mean, this was his time to shine. Zechariah's time to minister. Likely he would have come out and declared the Aaronic blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you, right? To these people. But the divine interruption of silence. See, divine interruptions don't just affect us, but they affect others. It didn't just silence Zechariah's mouth, but I believe it silenced Elizabeth's shame. When his time of service was completed, he returned home. After this, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant for 5 months and remained in seclusion. The Lord has done this for me, she said. In these days, he has shown his favor and taken away my disgrace among the people. Think about that. This divine silence, it took away this divine interruption. It took away a lifetime of shame. It silenced condemnation that came for an entire life because of the divine interruption in Zechariah's life. Romans 10 says it's for with your heart you believe and are justified, and it's with your mouth you profess your faith and are saved. The scriptures say anyone who believes in him will never be put to shame. For there's no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord of lords of all is and richly blesses all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. A life of shame silenced because of divine interruption. I mean, look what happens when Mary visits. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Spirit. In a loud voice, she exclaimed, "Blessed are you among women. Blessed is the child you bear. But why am I so favored that the mother of my Lord should come to me? As soon as the sound of your greeting reached my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy." Once again, why am I enough? Why am I so favored? That's a moment of shame. That's a moment of self-doubt. But the response, the divine interruption, was that the child leaped for joy. Shame is silenced in the midst of divine interruption. Not only is shame silenced, but look at Zechariah's doubt. Divine interruption silenced Zechariah's doubt. Recall, he prayed, right? He asked for a child. He experienced the angels, and he asked for a sign, but his response was doubt. Divine interruption, it developed his faith. It says, when the time came for Elizabeth to have her baby, she gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy. They shared her joy. On the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him after his father, but his mother spoke up and said, "No, he's to be called John." They said to her, "There is no one among your relatives who have that name." Then they made signs to his father to find out what he would like to name the child. He asked for a writing tablet, and to everyone's astonishment, he wrote, "His name is John." Immediately, his mouth was opened and his tongue was set free, and he began to speak, praising God. The people, they tried to do it their way, but Zechariah said, no, my faith is in that moment. My faith is in that divine interruption. That divine interruption of silence brought about faith in his life. It silenced the doubt in his mind. Our divine interruptions, they don't just affect us, right? They affect others. All the neighbors were filled with awe. And throughout the hill country of Judea, people were talking about these things. Everyone who heard this wondered about it, asking, what then is this child going to be? For the Lord's hand was with him. Divine interruptions, they come in our life, moments where we're not expecting it, where God speaks to us, where he shows up in our lives. We might be busy about our day. We might be doing our responsibilities, but he shows up. And when he shows up, he silences things. He silences shame. He silences doubt. He silences disgrace. He silences the power of sin in our lives because of his presence, that divine interruption that came. Listen to Zechariah's song at the end of this. His father, Zechariah, was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come to his people and redeemed them. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David." And he said this through the prophets long ago, "Salvation from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us, to show us mercy to our ancestors and to remember his holy covenant, the oath he swore to our father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies and to enable us to serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all of our days. And you, my child, you'll be called a prophet of the Most High. For you'll go on before the Lord to prepare the way for him, to give his people the knowledge of salvation through the forgiveness of their sins, because of the tender mercy of our God, by which the rising sun will come to us from heaven, to shine on those living in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet in the path of peace." You know, today, I want to embrace divine interruptions. Zechariah began to prophesy in faith about his son because of the divine interruption that occurred when he was going to do his job. The Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you, may turn his face towards you, grant you his peace, and may you embrace, maybe experience a divine interruption that brings silence of fear, silence of doubt, silence of shame. Be blessed.